Welcome back to the Manifest Change podcast, where real conversations spark real growth. This is episode 7.
Too hot to handle, too cold to hold. I'm focused on changing the game. I'm in total control. It was written in the scroll. I'm keeping it simple and plain. My pedals to the floor, no less and no more. Cause I'm destined to manifest change.
We want to invite you, the listener, the viewer, the audience, to stay connected to us. Our guest today is the founder of the PLUR Unity Collective. I hope I'm saying that right. PLUR.
Yeah. So and just so you know, PLUR is and I, when I had the idea, it was like it sounded good at the time. I kind of, I'm not really sure that I should have put that in there, but PLUR stands for peace, love, unity, and respect. And it's part of it's really a principle from the EDM, the electronica, like the trance, those big festivals. PLUR is kind of the foundation of how we keep each other safe. Peace, love, unity, and respect for each other. So PLUR Unity Collective, I wanted to reach those people, the people that I think find health and happiness through music. I wanted them to know that this includes them, that the Unity Collective includes them. But I've branched it out. I've kind of had a lot of different ideas in different directions. I like to just call it the Unity Collective, but it is, the PLUR Unity Collective.
Love it. And you can learn more about their work at plurunitycollective.org. And you can follow Zach on Instagram at Mr.Z.binx and at your local thruple.
Yep.
You can also connect with us at manifest-change.org. Follow us on Instagram at _manifest.change or reach us directly at podcast@manifestchange.org. We do believe that real change happens through community, and we are so grateful that you're here. Now,
it's awesome. Awesome.
Yes. We're happy that you're here, and we're happy that our audience is tuned in to us. They get to look at our beautiful faces and they can hear our beautiful voices on Spotify. So that's where you can find us. But now on to our wonderful guest. Today's guest brings a perspective shaped by service, hardship, and intentional healing. He's a third-generation entrepreneur, an Army veteran, a father, husband, and the founder of the PLUR Unity Collective, an organization dedicated to unity, connection, and care for people who feel unseen. Through experiences with mental health challenges, addiction recovery, and personal loss, he's learned that emotional strength isn't about silence or suppression, but honesty, vulnerability, and love. So he's here today not to relive pain, but to help redefine what strength really looks like for men. Welcome, Zach Blair, to the Manifest Change podcast, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Hey, Zach, how you doing, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you, Merris? How you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm doing good, brother. Nice to have you on, man.
Yeah, nice to be here.
How you feeling, man? Have you recovered? Did you sleep all day yesterday or what?
I haven't slept in days, man.
Oh, dude. I haven't
slept in days.
I was hoping you'd be laid up all day yesterday.
I've had too much work to do. I barely got any sleep, man.
Yeah, but you enjoyed yourself, man. You enjoyed yourself.
I did.
That was your first time to Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Was it everything you thought it was going to be?
And more, honestly. I didn't really know what to expect going out there. I haven't really ever done anything like that, man. I've never really been successful enough in life to go on a trip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not on orders, not, you know what I'm saying? Not for the military, not just go on a trip, just go on a vacation to a place far away, and a tropical paradise like that, and just have the money to enjoy myself and to enjoy good food and to go to nice places. I've never been able to do anything like that. That's what I dreamed about as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But to do it for the first time, man, it was something else. It was really something else.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, here you go.
That's remarkable, man. And this may even stay in, man, honestly, because that's a lesson or a that's a vibe in and of itself, man. Just being successful enough to take your family halfway around the world and be able to enjoy yourself and not have to struggle with, paying for meals. And you guys got tattoos out there.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah, man, it looks phenomenal. It looks like you healed pretty quickly.
Good. Oh, it healed so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. Yeah.
That means he did a phenomenal job.
He did.
He did a great job.
Good job.
Tyrell, you and I both know from being ourselves that Hawaii is not cheap. So
it's not. It's not.
Yeah. No, we paid a little bit of money, but we ate some real good food. And one of the things that I noticed while we were out there was the food is fresher.
Yeah.
Like and within a couple days, our bodies started to feel better.
Right.
There's just less processed trash in the food on the island. You know what I mean? If you're eating good food, if you're eating going to a restaurant, actually eating good food, right. The fresher fish, the fresher pork.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all that crap that you got over here on the States, on the stateside where it just, it feels like I'm being poisoned.
Right.
You got it.
Right. No,
I don't know if you knew this. So Merris spent more time in Hawaii, but that's where I was before I met you, Zach. That's where I was, man. Yep. So 8 solid years, man. I had the time of my life, and I'm really, really glad you got to experience that.
Yeah, we'll definitely go back. We'll definitely go back.
I'll be there in April.
Awesome, brother.
I'll be there in April.
See, I'm jealous.
Yeah, right. You spent 15 there, didn't you? Were you there 15?
No, 13.
13, yeah. Something close to that. Yeah. Hawaii is great. If I hadn't been so broken from my divorce, when I divorced my first wife, I would still be in Hawaii, man. I was making 6 figures, selling mortgages, selling VA loans.
Yeah.
But I was very broken and I needed support from my people back home. So that's why I came home. Otherwise, my ass would still be there.
I didn't know that about you. Yeah, I don't think we ever really talked about why you came back from Hawaii. I just knew that you were out there.
Yeah. I had to start fresh, man. When you met me, Zach, at Livewell Financial, man, I was coming off of a 6-figure salary, selling VA loans at one of the biggest VA loan mortgage companies, Veterans United. Have you ever heard of Veterans United Mortgage? Yeah. So they had a very successful branch on Oahu. And I divorced my first wife, and I had a choice, either stay there and pick up the pieces, halfway around the world from my support, right, or sell everything and start fresh. And I actually negotiated, my salary and everything with Livewell when I was still in Hawaii. And as soon as I landed, I had a start date and everything. So that's when I show up there.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool. No, I didn't know that.
Yep. Good times. It was a huge shock because the pay, if you recall, our base salary was like $35K plus the little BS paid.
I do recall.
The pay plan was terrible.
It was. No, I actually ended up bankrupting after that Livewell.
Off at Livewell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was selling cars before Livewell and I was doing very well.
I knew that
when I went and bought my house. Yeah, I was selling cars for Haley. When I went and bought my house, the loan officer convinced me to leave the car business to do mortgages. But then he just let me drown. So I left there and I went to Livewell and thought that I might have a chance there. And I was doing all right. But you saw that. I ended up claiming bankruptcy and losing everything, man. I was homeless there for a little while.
I do recall. We're super stoked that you're here. You and I have known each other for quite some time. So I've been home now for 8 years. So I think I met you in 17.
Yeah, 2017.
17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I've known you for a while. We've recently reconnected. I actually thought you were mad at me for a bit.
Why would I be mad at you?
I thought you were mad at me because there was a moment where we had reconnected and you were living in either Williamsburg or Fredericksburg, one of those two. And you had invited me to your wedding. And
no. So I was never mad at you, for one. And that time of my life was such a blur. It was such a bad time that I lost track of everybody. I lost track of all the people that mattered. I lost all my friends. I lost the people that I loved. And that time was right after my mother passed. And, that was a tough time, but I was never mad at you, brother. I was never mad at you.
Thanks for saying that. Because I really value you as a friend. I'm happy to see that you're now thriving and successful down in Tampa. And I'm happy that Merris gets to be in your orbit now, because Merris is a good guy too. He's a good guy.
Good. I love good people.
So today's conversation, Zach, is not about reliving trauma. I think I mentioned that already. It's about understanding what emotional strength really looks like for men and how honesty, vulnerability, and accountability actually make us stronger. So I'll lead with this. Where do you think men learned that emotions or expressing emotions are a liability and not a strength?
I think that men learn that trait from society itself, from movies, from our fathers, from just the general. It's almost part of who we are. It's almost part of our instinctual being. It's not something that's necessarily learned per se. It's something that's just required. And I believe that we have to be. There's a certain level of strength that men have to have, a certain level of resilience that men have to have in order to do the things that we've had to do throughout history. The difference now is that we can talk, we can communicate. It doesn't change what we still have to be. It doesn't change that we still have to attack that hill under enemy gunfire. It doesn't change the fact that our bodies are still built to lift heavy objects and to move heavy things. And it doesn't change the fact that we're still the male part of the reproductive system. But now we can talk about it. And now we can actually try and heal through some of the traumas instead of just bottling them up, instead of just trying to carry that weight through your end of days.
Absolutely. I think it's generational. I think it's something that's learned or taught or experienced through just living. Our parents grew up, at least I knew my dad, he was one of 6, and his parents really just didn't have time to coddle his emotions, so he had to just fight and do whatever he needed to do to survive, because his parents literally just had too many people to try and deal with. And so I do think a lot of it is generational. And
that's
to your
word.
Go ahead.
Survive. So when I went to college the first time, I wrote my first thesis on survival, and how so many of our personality traits and so many of the things that we understand about ourselves today are so rooted in our general survival instincts. And we have to survive. So it's not just generational, it's DNA, it's biological. We are meant to be tough. We're men. We're strong. We're meant to be tough. But how tough? How tough do we have to be? And at what point do we get a break?
At what point? At what point? Merris, I think this is a topic that you can relate to, man. You're a man, I've learned about you, who is not afraid to express himself, right? Obviously, did you learn that as an adult, man? Like, you learn how to express, wear your heart on your sleeve as an adult, or have you always been that way?
I think honestly, I think as a child, just watching my mother, watching my father, how they carried themselves. And like Zach said, some things are instinctive. So, and television, seeing things on television, and I think all of these things played a role in how your character grows. Knowing that, okay, the responses from people also, because for example, there may be times early on in my childhood where I became expressive, but that expression of how I felt was rejected. So once it's rejected, you pull back. And then, as most of us are taught as young boys, don't cry or don't express yourself or don't feel this way. It's you start realizing that, okay, maybe that is right. Maybe that is the proper trait to have, because every time I express this feeling or I feel this emotion, for lack of a better word, I'm shitted on, So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I think those are the experiences of most men, where at a young age we try to express ourselves, share our feelings, and it's repeatedly rejected.
I have noticed a trend in my personal life, and this isn't based in science in any way, shape, or form, but I have noticed a trend that men that are raised by single women have a tendency to be more expressive, or more emotionally intelligent. So in my case, for example, I just had my mother. My father wasn't around. I didn't barely know him. He was a child support check, and later on became more of an enemy. Um, I learned emotional expression from my mother, who I watched go through hell raising her children, homelessness, abuse, all kinds of terrible, terrible things that we went through. But I learned emotions from her. I learned how to guard emotions from her. I learned how to analyze and how to express emotions from a woman, not from a man. But then I went out into the real world and I tried to transfer that energy. I tried to bring that energy out into the world. And what that looked like as a child might have been a peer mediator or somebody who tried to talk their way out of fights. I got my ass whooped, is what happened. And I found out real quick that the way that I can't function like that. I am a man and I have to be a man. So I had to teach myself how to be a man without a father figure to help me do that. And so I feel like in my head I have this weird conglomerate of different ideas and different perspectives. But we absolutely we take those emotions out into the world and we get shut down. We're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to have feelings. Oh, that girl broke up with you. Get over it, bro. Go get another one. Oh, your dog died. Who cares, bro? Just go get another one. Oh, you're feeling a little sad today. Pick yourself up. What are you going to do about it? You're a dude. What are you going to do? You can't be sad. You're not allowed to be sad.
And it's
Add in clinical depression,
mm-hmm.
and you have a firestorm. You have a firestorm, and that for me is a big message, and that's for the Unity Collective. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reach out to specifically, and I mean, obviously it's a broad spectrum of people I try and talk to and I try and reach, but a lot of the people I want to reach are the people that do have clinical depression, do have, either bipolar 1, bipolar 2, that maybe they're manic, whatever the case is, different personality disorders. I suffered with my whole life and just didn't really understand it. And then of course the military said, hey, you're bipolar, we can't keep you, so you're not good enough for us. And I said, well, I don't even know what bipolar is. My mom's bipolar. what? But I've never done anything like that. I don't. Well, that's what you are, and you've got to go. So then I entered a world where it's like, hey, something is wrong with me. They put a stamp on me and said, you're broken. Your brain is broken. And then I spent 20 years trying to figure out what that looks like as an adult. How do I self-medicate through that? Who do I talk to about it? Because every time I've tried to talk to somebody about how I felt, not only was I shit on, I was kicked out of the military. You know, I lost everything. So
society. Go ahead, Merris. Did you have something?
Oh no, I was just gonna add on to what he said in regards to when he mentioned, being raised by, a woman, and it pretty much determining how he carried himself, and I can relate to that because although I had both my mother and my father in the household, my mother took care of primarily the raising of us.
Right.
My father, he just, and no disrespect, but he went to work, he came home, he went to sleep, he prepared to go to work again the next day. So
and that's pretty much a generational thing too. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. So, my mother, she taught, that's where the caring part of me comes from, all of those things, all of the things that you think that a woman would rear her child to be. And then, when you go out in the real world, you learn that those things that you're taught, they don't serve you, and you're taught that you have to toughen up. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that young boys, men, things like that they have to live with that, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And I think that's the missing component of it. Even in relationships, if you come to your girlfriend or your wife and you're like, hey, I feel this type of way, it's perceived as you're crying or you're excuse my language, being a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to get back to understanding that, we're all human. We all have feelings. We all have emotions.
100%.
Definitely. I hate how we're shamed into silence, right? And that gets mistaken for strength as a man, right? So I'm like, 100%. Society, we should put a little bit of onus on society, entertainment, media, for creating this atmosphere or this environment, on a global level that positions men as being the strong, silent type, and it shames men shames men for having emotions, that are genuine, shedding a tear or two. And so that really, so why, silence getting mistaken for strength, that is a true characteristic of being a man. And how does that keep us? I mean, that keeps us isolated. Would you agree? Like not being able to express yourself, that creates a bit of isolation.
I think it's multifaceted. So we have to put it on the media, and we have to kind of go back in time a little bit to when, you had those old flicks, the old movies where the men were just tough guys, tough guy this, tough guy that, the old Westerns to move into the old gangster films, and the men were always the strong, silent types. And the scariest guy in the room was the one who didn't speak. The one who just didn't have any emotions is the scariest guy in the room. To this day, the one who doesn't have any emotions, he's still the scariest guy in the room. Okay. Every other man in the room has emotions that they're not talking about. Every other man in the room has feelings that they're not expressing. If there's one guy in the room who doesn't feel anything, he's a sociopath. There's a name for them now. They're called sociopaths. Everybody else has feelings. Everybody else has pains. My point, and what I think where we have to get to, is we have to get to a point where we can still be men. We can still do the men things that we have to do. We can still be providers. We can still be fighters when we have to be fighters. We can still protect our homes, protect our livelihood. We can still rear our children and teach them discipline. But we don't have to do it from the fist. We can use our words now. We can be a little bit smarter. We can be a little bit more engaged. We can talk better. We can work through things in ways that aren't so toxic, the toxic masculinity, the type of thing. We can get away from that. And I know there's a lot of men out there that there's a lot of men out there that listen to me talk and they say, oh, listen to this guy. He's just a little crybaby. You know what, man? Listen, I've done it all. I've done every single bad thing that you could do. I've been an addict. I joined the military. I've been in more fights than I can count. I've had my skull clear clock knocked. I was just at a doctor's appointment a little bit ago. He said, are those shakes normal? How many times have you been concussed? Man, I don't know how many times I've been concussed. So many times I can't count. We can play football. We can do all those things. But at some point, somebody needs to be able to come up to that kid and say, hey, I know you're having a bad day, man. I know you're having a bad day. Let's talk about it. Right. I still hug my son's 13 years old. I still hug my son. On Christmas Day, this was the first Christmas I got to spend. I danced with my son. I held him close, and I kind of swayed back and forth. And I said, son, I need you to know that for the last 10 years of your life, I haven't really been present because I've been battling demons that I can't even begin to explain to you how strong they were and how strong I had to be to overcome them. I protected you from those demons because I didn't want to raise my son to be another asshole. I didn't want to raise my son to be another silent, quiet, tough guy. I wanted to raise my son to be somebody who understood compassion, who understood empathy, who understood sacrifice. The difference, in my opinion, between what we used to teach men and what we should be teaching men now is that you can be all of those strong, aggressive, fierce things and still be a compassionate, empathetic, caring person. You can still talk to each other. Therapy's okay. All of these things are okay. We don't have to be weak to do them. Agreed.
I hate that men get labeled as weak for caring for people genuinely. You brought up your son and that realization or that moment that you had with him. You shared that on social media, and I thought that was extremely touching, and I thought it was very big of you to do that, because I've led with that my entire fatherhood. Because I didn't get that from my dad. Like, my dad was a football player, sports guy. Like I mentioned before, he had like 5 siblings. So just an overall tough guy, never really loved on me, but so much. And I led with that. And my kids know 100% that they're loved and they're cared for, because I will look at them and I'll see that they're sad, or if I'm scolding them for something, I will look him in the eye and I will just put my arm around him and be like, hey, man, everything is okay. So we're not demonizing you expressing yourself. We're embracing it, and we're teaching you that vulnerability is okay.
Yeah. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel bad. Now, it's not okay to manipulate. It's not okay to use those emotions to manipulate. The difference, and this is where I think, and this is kind of the double-edged sword that I'm starting to see come out in society now, is we're starting to see people abuse the fact that we're talking more about emotions to manipulate, entitlement. Oh, well, I have all of these problems. I have all of these mental problems, so I can't function. My message and what I'm here to say is, with all of these problems and all of the things that I've gone through and everything I've lost and everything I've suffered, you can still be successful. You can still work hard. You can still be a good father. You can still be a good person. You need to know yourself. You need to heal yourself. You need to talk. And hey, sometimes you got to wild out a little bit. Sometimes you got to mess up. You got to make mistakes. You got to fall in deep, dark, freaking holes sometimes to learn how to climb back out of them. That happens. But the biggest mistake that you can make at this point is to just say, you know what, I'm going to do it by myself. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm going to just suffer in silence, which is what I did for a very long time. And I almost didn't live through that quite a few times. There were quite a few times in 2020, 2021 time period where I didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I was going to make it because I was doing it by myself. My mom was gone and my mom was my center. My mom was the only person in the world that I knew how to talk to, because she was.
Talk to the audience about how that felt. Can you describe how that felt?
Which part?
Doing it all by yourself.
Between the alcohol and the drugs, it felt pretty terrible. When my mom, so when you grow up, in a single mother household, and you're forced to become the man of the house very young. And my mom went through terrible, terrible things in her life. One of the strongest women, hands down. The things that she went through and still somehow survived as long as she did. It's just incredible. But then, unfortunately, she also brought some of those things on to her children, the abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse that I suffered because of the people that she chose, which is a cyclical thing that we need to learn how to break. We don't break it without communication. We don't break it without talking. But that's a different topic. But when she passed, I did not cry. At first, I didn't cry for over a year. I was happy for her. I was happy for her because that woman had suffered for so long with the pain that she had inside her, and nobody understood her except her children. And how could she burden her children with that? I mean, unfortunately, she did. She did, at least me, mostly over my younger sibling. But when she was gone, I lost my center. I lost the person that understood me. So being somebody who has bipolar and manic tendencies, psychotic tendencies, I have manic episodes. I can get real. I can get going, man. I can get going, and I can want to build something. Hey, well, what are we doing? Let's build. I want to turn the garage into a gym. Can we do it today? How much money is it going to cost? Yeah, I'll write the check right now. Let's do it. Those types of things they're impulsive. They're very quick. Hey, I want to buy a motorcycle. Now I'm going to drive really fast, and then I'm going to do a lot of drugs, and I'm going to drink, and I'm going to go crazy. Those are all parts of that cycle. She was the person in the world who could tell me, hey, slow down. This isn't you, buddy. This is an episode. This is something you're going through. Let's talk about it. Let me bring you back to center. Let me talk to you about who you are. She was my person. She was my center. When she died, I had nothing. I had no money. She left me her business that was $20,000 in debt. And I had a younger brother who saw the pain that I was in and saw how lost I was. And he did step up at that point, and he took over taking care of my mother in her final days because I was lost. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I was abusing pills. I was just, without her, I didn't think I could survive because she was the only person in the world that understood me. Once she was gone, suicide was the only answer. And I drove towards it. Every action I took, every step I took was towards an end. I made plans. I attempted a few times. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be in a world where I had nobody who understood me. I didn't think I was allowed to talk to people. I didn't think I was allowed to express myself or talk about who I am. The doctors just want to medicate you. And this last doctor almost killed me on the medication she put me on, which I'm finally off of. And if I seem a little slow, it's because this new doctor is trying to help me get off the last. And that's what the doctors do. They're just practicing medicine. So I had nowhere to go. So I self-medicated with alcohol and drugs. And there were quite a few times alone in that world where death seemed a lot more comfortable than life.
This is why this work is so important, because we hope to reach folks that were in your situation where you were, who didn't feel like they could talk to anyone, or they didn't have anyone to talk to. And we hope that we are reaching folks who can now know that they have an organization like the PLUR Unity Collective or a Manifest Change who they could reach out to talk to. And I want to encourage anyone in the audience who can hear my voice and see my face that if you need someone to talk to, we're more than happy to hear you out. I'm sure Zach feels the same way.
I talk to people all the time. I get messages all the time, just random people that'll hit me up and say, "Hey, man, I heard something you said, and I just wanted to talk to you about this. Is something I'm feeling, and this is what I'm going through." One of the most amazing things, and I'm not going to name names, but a buddy of mine saw a video I did or a post I did where I finally came out about a sexual assault that occurred when I was about 11 years old. My stepfather attacked me in the bathroom. And I hadn't really ever talked about it. I kind of blacked it out, most of it. I knew it had happened, but I blacked out the real emotion of it, the real feeling, the real visceral feelings behind it. I did have to relive it. And when I say I had to relive it, I did some psychedelics. Don't recommend LSD to people who have PTSD, but I decided to try it for the first time, and I did way too much acid. And I had to relive that entire thing, but it was actually one of the most gratifying experiences I've ever had, because what I realized after 30 years almost of feeling like a victim, of feeling like this 6'4" ex-Navy SEAL tried to rape me in my own house, he failed. And what I remembered is the fight. I fought that man for almost 30 minutes. I fought with every fucking thing I had to stop him, and I succeeded. Now, could he have knocked me out at any time? Sure. But you know what? That's not what he wanted. He wanted fear and he wanted pain. But I fought and I fought and I fought that man. And somebody reached out to me after I came out about that, and I came out and I started talking about that, because I think this happens to more men and boys than, and especially boys. And we've all heard, that on an incredible scale, women are assaulted as children, and incredible, so many more than you could even possibly imagine. But I think there's a lot more men out there that are actually sexually assaulted than we actually hear about, because how do you talk about this? How do you identify yourself when something like this happens? How do you go and you tell people about that and not feel weak, not feel like you failed, not feel? And here's the big thing. And this all culminates into one real problematic thing. After all of that happened, I leaned very closely on my mother for support through everything. And after my stepfather was gone and all that stuff and everything took place, she did not want me to talk about it. She did not want me to talk about it. And the reason she didn't want me to talk about it is because she felt like people would start to assume that I was gay.
Yeah, there it is.
So Zach, let me ask you.
Mm-hmm.
When your mother told you this, did you have any resentment towards her, or did you feel as though she was siding with someone else rather than you?
At the time, no. At the time, I took anything she said as gospel. At the time, I felt like she was just doing what was best for me. This, hindsight being what it is later in life, I would have definitely gone a different way. Because what ended up happening is, after the event with my stepfather, I ended up being molested by an older boy in the neighborhood, when I was about 12 years old. But at this point, I was starting to get angry. I was starting to be really confused. And at that point, I became violent. And at that point, I started fighting. I got expelled from schools. I got in a lot of trouble. Hindsight being 2020, she absolutely should not have done what she did. She absolutely should have told me to tell somebody. She absolutely should have taken me to therapy. She absolutely should have made me broadcast it to the world, that I fought, that I was not raped, but that there was an attempt, And then, but anyway, the point of going down this road was by talking about this, somebody reached out to me, a friend of mine reached out to me, and he was not assaulted, but his wife was. And he was going through at that point in his life, just finding out about it after many, many years of being with her and many, many years of knowing. And she was actually assaulted by her own family member that he'd been around many times. And so he came to me and he said, what am I supposed to do? How do I support her through this process? How do I support myself knowing that this man did this to his daughter and is now the grandfather of my child? What am I supposed to do, Zach, as someone who's been through this, as someone who has learned all these lessons and felt all these things and had to recover from all these things? What is your perspective? Him and I talked for 5.5 hours on the phone one night. And we really came to a place of understanding of where you have to stand, what lines you have to draw. And really, I think when I look back on my mom, she did the best she could with the knowledge she had at the time. She was trying to protect her children. She was trying to do everything she could to keep us safe in an environment that was already hell to live in. We were running, you get off the school bus and you run for your life type of environment. So it wasn't something that anybody wanted to get out there. It's not like we wanted it to be known that these things had happened to me as a child. But then I spent the rest of my life feeling like a victim. And I realized I'm not a victim. Yes, I was a victim of an assault, but I'm a savage. I'm a fucking savage. I fought that man for 30 minutes, right. 20, however many minutes. And he didn't he didn't win. He didn't tire me out. I didn't quit. He wanted me to quit. I didn't quit, And then the kid in the neighborhood who tried it, he didn't get it either. Listen, you're a fighter.
Still traumatic. Still so regardless.
Traumatic. Still so traumatic. But honor yourself. Honor yourself for the things that you've been through. And my message to people is, yes, you go through terrible things. Life is hard. And terrible things are going to happen to you. Honor yourself for being able to sustain through them. Talk about them. Talk about the pain that you feel. Don't bottle it up inside like I did for so long, because it will poison your heart and it will poison your soul.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, at what point were you able to get out a good cry? Like you said you held everything in. At any point, did you get a good cry in?
You mean after my mom died?
Well, I guess during the period of where you were suffering the most, where you were at your deepest, darkest. And I'm asking you this because for the longest time, I couldn't cry. I could hear about somebody passing away, something bad could happen to me or whatever the case may be. I didn't have it in my soul to even cry until something happened to me. I felt heartbreak for the first time. And I know my wife is going to see this, but this is very relevant. I couldn't cry until my soul was literally crushed. And that happened when I divorced my first wife. The pain that I felt because I had tried to do something so meaningful, like build a life with someone, and I failed. And the heartbreak that came from that is what opened up my soul to allow me the opportunity to even be able to shed a tear. And now, anytime I see anything on TV or anything like that where people are expressing genuine emotion, I can cry. And so that's why I asked you, like, where was the point where your soul opened and you were able to actually let it out?
I can tell you that from the age of 10 or 11 or whatever, that time period, all the way through my mother passing. And then after that, I do not remember crying. I don't remember ever having sadness as an emotion. I had rage for days, but I don't remember crying. I don't remember actually crying the first time after my mother died until I woke up from a night terror, and my wife was there, and I think I cried a little bit then, and I got some of it out. I don't think I actually unlocked the capability to really feel these emotions and cry again until I went down the rabbit hole and relived it all, which was just this past year. And after that, I sobbed, and I mean uncontrollably sobbed for probably a couple days. And that's 38 years of pain, and loss and trauma and just confusion. And a lot of it was actually brought on by, the media and the things that have happened in our country, and my confusion, because I stuck my head in the sand for a long time, because I just can't handle it. I can't handle the pain. I'm a highly sensitive person. I can't handle so much pain in my environment. And finally, after I had that experience and I relived some of those things and I started talking about it again and I started actually expressing things, and I finally confessed to my partners, what happened to me and why certain things are hard for me to do. Especially sexually, there's certain things that are hard for me to do. There's certain things, certain types of aggression, I can't exhibit. I have an immediate like pullback. I have an immediate stop. Once I started really talking about these things and getting into these things and expressing those things, I finally found the ability to cry again. And now I know pain. I've always known pain, but now I know how to process it. Now I know how to cry, and I still don't have control over it. And that's kind of the thing, is I still don't know when it's okay to cry. I still don't know, it's just, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it's just like, well, I just feel like I have to. I don't know. Like, I'm just right now, I'm just going to cry. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but right now I'm going to cry. I saw some shit on TV and I'm just going to cry right now.
Yes.
And this is about it. But yeah, I finally, it took over 20 years after that experience, almost 30 years after that experience, to learn how to cry again, to learn how to be a man and cry. Yeah. It took a long time.
It's so crazy. Mm-hmm. Merris, what do you think about the topic of crying as a man? How does that make you feel?
I can relate to a lot of things that Zach said, right? So, but I think there's differences, because for me as a kid, I was always crying. I was very sensitive as a kid. One movie in particular, is Bette Midler. I think it's called Beaches. Is that the name of it? Where her friend had cancer at the end or something like that. I cried watching that. So crying was something that I'm familiar with as a kid. But as I got older, I cried less, right? And listening to Zach speak, it's reminding me of certain things, because it was kind of weird, because Tyrell, as you know, and other people that may have watched other episodes of the podcast, I lost my mother at 16, when she had a stroke. But prior to that, both of my brothers had been murdered.
I'm sorry.
So it went from, watching my mother cry when my brother got killed, to it becoming the norm, to, a good friend of mine's getting killed when we were 13. And then later on, another friend of mine's being killed, I think it was our senior year of high school, So the more and more I started losing people, the less emotional I became. It became like the norm. And especially
you become numb to it.
Say it again.
You become numb to it.
Yeah, you become numb to it. So, and then it hardens you, you know, and it really hardens you to where just recently when my father passed away, you know, I mentioned that I dealt with it differently, but in all actuality, when I'm thinking about it, I dealt with it differently because of all the experiences before. Because Zach, you mentioned something where you said, "Oh, that you tried to commit suicide." To be honest with you, I did myself, and had it not been for a good friend of mine at the time, I probably would have succeeded. You know, with with cutting my wrists and stuff like that. And with that being said, it's just the fact of I would like to ask you this. You mentioned that you were able to open up to your wife and others about what you had experienced. Was it the fact that what was it that made it that you were comfortable with opening it up? And before you answer that, the reason why I'm asking that is because I've found that over the years, having certain friends that I could speak to, they may not have known it during the conversation, but they helped me off the ledge.
Sure.
That's so. Yeah, I like to ask you that question.
So, and this isn't a recommendation by any means. I decided to try LSD for the first time, and I decided to try it for its supposed healing principles. I'd read a lot about how they're using ketamine therapy, how they're using LSD to try and help heal people's brains. And I've tried a lot of different medications. Doctors have put me on medications in the past that they turned me into a monster. They turned me into a zombie. They something was wrong. And I started doing a lot of reading more into the metaphysical. I started doing a lot of reading more into the self, the ego, the idea of us, and the idea of an ego death. And so I decided to try it because I'm, hey, I've tried everything else. So and this isn't a recommendation to anybody listening, and I certainly don't recommend that anybody ever does this. What I did way too much acid. During that experience, I saw and relived pretty much every terrible thing that's ever really happened, and my ego was actually destroyed, and it was probably one of the most visceral, painful, and humbling experiences. It lasted a very long time. My wife and my fiance stood by me and stayed in the house and watched and made sure that I didn't do anything crazy. And really, it was agonizing. Inside my brain, I was being ripped to shreds, literally pulled apart by wires and razor wires, and having and reliving the entire physical altercation with my stepfather over again. And once all those things were brought to the surface, I came out of that with some type of realization that I'm not a victim. I am strong. I did suffer, but I am here. I did try and kill myself many times. And I don't think, to be fair, I think that there's a difference between trying to kill yourself and playing with the idea or the ruminating thoughts of suicide. Generally speaking, somebody who is on that ledge may try and hang themselves, but not hang themselves from a tree with a rope, hang themselves from, a garage beam with a, thin aluminum beam with an extension cord which is what I knew that thing would break. I weigh 240 pounds. You know what I mean? Maybe subconsciously in my head, I wanted to die, but maybe I didn't really want to die. Other people say that it just wasn't my time. Other people say that God intervened. I also took a lot of pills one time, and I ended up getting sick there's a difference between those and the people that use a gun. There's a big difference. you know, and I think for a lot of people, there is a cry for attention that comes from suicide attempts. I wear the scars on my wrists. And I checked myself into a hospital for those when that happened, and that was actually right after you and I lost that, right after Livewell Financial, and after I went bankrupt. I ended up cutting my wrists and going and calling the police and having them come and get me and take me to the hospital. At that point, I was abusing Adderall. And then I lost my next job, which would have been a really great job because of the drug abuse. And then my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. And then we found out that it was terminal, that it spread throughout her entire body. And then while she was on hospice, I was abusing the Adderall to stay awake with her at night because she also had COVID pneumonia, acute COVID pneumonia. So they would not do chemo while she had the acute COVID pneumonia, which is the dumbest shit on in the planet. So one is definitely going to kill her, but you're not going to treat the one that might not kill her. So, you know, but that's what they did. They put her on a respirator. They would not do the chemotherapy. So she ended up kind of withering away. And then finally we put her on hospice, and I used Adderall to stay awake 24 hours a day, for multiple days at a time, to just listen to her breathe, until finally my brother stepped in and said, "Hey, you can't do this anymore. You're not well. I have to take her away from you." And so he did. And at that point, the Adderall ran out. And so I turned to street drugs, and, you know, and I tried to kill myself 3 times in 2021, I believe. And they weren't really, it wasn't really attempting to kill myself. It was just pushing it to the limit. It was just like, I just don't really care. Like, what happens? You know, I don't care anymore. Nobody's here for me anymore. And I lost track of my son. I lost track of my brother. I lost track of the good things that I have, my talents, my abilities, my brain. I lost track of all of that because there was nobody left to tell me I was worth anything. There was nobody left to tell me that I was good. Not even my own father asked me, and he still to this day hasn't asked me if I'm okay after my mother died. And I just realized how alone I was, and that she kind of died alone too. She had her sons by her side, but other than that, her friends, everybody had left her because her mental conditions, people didn't understand. And I realized that my mental conditions, nobody's going to understand. So I'm going to end up just like her. So why not just take it? Why not take it into my own hands? At least then I don't have to die slow. And that
crazy.
What they call, when it comes down to it, that's called suicidal rumination. It starts with an idea, it starts with a thought, and then it builds and it builds and it builds. And for normal people, the idea of suicide is such a sad thing. Your brain cannot handle it for very long. You get depressed, you cry, you get sad, you go to sleep, you lay down. That's depression. That's just standard depression. That will stop those ruminating thoughts. That will stop the suicidal ruminating thoughts. What happens when your brain can't stop? When your brain can't shut down? Let's say you're using Adderall. Let's say you're using cocaine. Let's say you're ADHD. Any number of things that cause your brain to stay up. Another thing that happens is when they first put you on antipsychotics or antidepressants, the antidepressants will stop the essentially the effect of your brain like getting sad, right? But it doesn't stop the thoughts. But you have to slow your central nervous system down, or those suicidal ruminating thoughts keep going, and sooner or later you're gonna do it. Sooner or later you can't stop it. And that's essentially what was happening to me all throughout that period of time of loneliness. Was I would just have this idea like, I think the world would be better off without me. And now my high-powered brain, because I am ADHD a little, you know, and I do have, you know, I'm on the spectrum in some ways, but
aren't we all?
Yeah, aren't we all? Now what's going to happen is I'm going to logicize it. I'm going to work out why it should happen, where it should happen. I'm going to make plans to make sure everyone's taken care of in the process. And then I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that nobody has to see it. And by the end of all of that, I should have been so exhausted and so sad that I couldn't go through with it. But that didn't happen. Right. That didn't happen to me. And I had nobody to talk to. I had nobody to tell me not to do it. You know, and then a lot of times what happens when you do talk about it is people don't take you seriously. And when they don't take you seriously, you prove them wrong. Right. You know? So.
Wow.
It's and that's what heavy. That's what I was gonna say. Like, you got to catch yourself, right? Because that was my experience. Where the first time my friend stopped me, the second time I caught myself. You know, I was in a situation where I was still living in Hawaii. I had my son, and I had no job. I had the only income that I had was school, and I was struggling with coming to the realization that, I had my son to raise. I had no income. I had just got booted out of the military, and just the avalanche of my life and all the experiences that I had been through up to that point was just coming down on me. And I remember my son was in the room asleep. I had these pills, and it was like something on my shoulder sitting there just saying, hey, take these pills. And the only thing that stopped me was the fact that I didn't want my son to wake up that morning and find me unresponsive.
Correct.
And I fought. I truly fought, because I was down bad mentally at that point. So it was.
And
insane.
One of the things, say again, Tyrell?
No. Insane. Yeah.
One of the things that happens that we don't look at. So there's events like that. You can be driven to a place of such depression, and it can be environmental. It can be just something, all the bad shit can happen at one time. There are also people, it doesn't matter how good you have it. It doesn't matter. You can have a silver spoon in your mouth. You can have everything at your fingertips. You can be me now, where I have fought my way back from the depths of that hell. And I have turned my business into a very successful enterprise. And I do very, very well for myself. I live in a beautiful home. I have a beautiful son. I have a great relationship with his mother now. I have two beautiful women who rely on me and love me. I have friends like Tyrell. I have friends that have talked me off of ledges plenty of times. But what I realize is it doesn't matter. And sometimes it's environmental. But for a lot of us, it's just in here. It's just your brain does not, it almost feels like you don't belong here. Like I'm not supposed to be here. And those feelings can become predominant. And that's where this ruminating thought comes from. Like, I'm just not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not doing anything. I should be doing more. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. Why wasn't I better? I should have been better by now. I should have been better, but I'm not. Why am I not better? Why am, and this is where I'm at right now, which is, and I was just actually, before I came on this podcast, I was at my psychiatrist appointment, and I actually, and that was the main thing that I explained to him was I fought tooth and nail to get to this place to be better. Why am I not better? If it was the world that was holding me down and I beat the world, then why am I holding myself down? Why am I still so mad at myself? Why do I look in the mirror and see somebody I hate? Why do I feel so much anger and so much pain all the time? Why do I turn on the news and feel like the world's just lost its mind? And I'm scared to go outside. I don't even go to the grocery store. I get paranoid. I get anxious. I feel like I'm going to get attacked at any moment. I don't let people walk behind me. I don't let people. I mean, it's just the world has taught me to be afraid, and I'm tired of it. And I think the key to that, I think the key to fixing that is talking about it. I think the key to fixing it is talking about it. More and more people, and I think we can do this. I think we can do this. If there's enough of us out there who can, the way that a contagion spreads, we can spread goodness, we can spread love, we can spread positivity. I think we can start to change the world, at least within our small circles, and our small circles can grow.
Right. I completely agree. And just if I may add, there's a common thread or theme between the two, both of your stories, in talking about suicide. And it was because, Merris, you said you didn't want your son to see you. And Zach, I'm not too certain. I think you made a couple attempts and you took yourself, or you called the police on yourself or the ambulance. But love of someone else is what essentially saved you guys. And I think that's the foundation to healing. So why do you believe, Zach, that love is a foundation to healing? Because you said you've got, two beautiful women that support you. Is that what keeps you going today?
No. And here's the difference. And this is, I kind of started to touch on it a little bit, but in Merris's circumstances, the weight on his shoulders built up so big that it felt like he was crushed and he wanted an escape. Mm-hmm. But he realized that he can't. He has responsibilities to people. Mm-hmm. Love did not save me, because in my mind, killing myself would have been an act of love. So
to yourself,
to them,
take it. Oh, got it.
The greatest in my mind at that time, the greatest act of love I could have shown my son was to not be here, to not let him see his father fall, to not let him see his father fail. I thought that it would be better if he just grew up thinking his father was some piece of shit drug addict who killed himself one day, and his mother moved on and he had a great life, than it would be for him to exist in the same space with somebody as terrible as I am. The thing is, I'm not. And that's the mental, that's the inside part of it. That's not environmental. That's in our heads, kind of like body dysmorphia, sort of. If everybody talks about body dysmorphia. Oh, you go to the gym, and the more you work out, the worse you feel. Well, there's this depression and especially bipolar and especially manic and all of these different disorders that we're finally starting to figure out, that we're starting to work on, that we're starting to learn about. It doesn't matter how many people love you. It doesn't matter if you're the brightest smile in the room. You can have the prettiest face. A friend of my wife's just killed herself a couple of months ago. Beautiful girl. Every picture she posted, beautiful smile, beautiful person. Nobody knew how much pain she was in. She had children. Everybody loved her. Why did she do it? Nobody was listening. Nobody was listening to what was actually happening inside her head. And it's funny that you mentioned that you have friends that talk you off a ledge. I had, I'll shout out Charles if he ever does listen to this. But this guy I've really never met. I met him in passing once or twice, but he's a friend of mine on Facebook. And one night I was posting stuff, and I was in a major manic episode, and I was kind of freaking out and crashing out on Facebook. And he was like, man, I've heard shit like this before, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk to you as long as it takes to get you to stop. But he sat there and he talked to me. He said, I've heard shit like this before. And I heard it right before he put a shotgun in his mouth and blew his brains out. So I've heard these words. I know these words, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk to you because I know where you're going. The reality is, when you have some of these when you have mental illness, it's not controllable. It's not something that you can stop. It's not something that you can look at your son or your family or your life and say, hey, you know what? I actually have it pretty good. I shouldn't do this. it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. And until it's done, until the episode ends or you find a different answer, that cycle can be very, very dangerous. And those people need to know that there are others like them, that it doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter the bad things, the good things. It doesn't matter. If you have these types of mental illnesses or you have these types of thoughts that are uncontrollable, these uncontrollable ruminating thoughts about hurting yourself or killing yourself or just being sad. I mean, some people are just, it's just ruminating sadness. You can talk to people. And then of course, therapy and doctors and medication, exercise, all of those things are great things, but without being able to speak to people about them that understand, that won't judge you, you're alone in the world, man. You're alone. And
that's why this work is so important.
That's why this work is so important, Tyrell.
Yep. It's super important.
Absolutely.
Because Merris, I think you would agree that doing this podcast and trying to reach young men ages 15 to 25 and beyond, let's be real, because a lot of men need to hear the things that we're saying. Right. It actually strengthens our own healing,
right. It does.
And so I applaud you both. You both are nonprofit founders with a similar mission to help. I applaud you both because Zach is right. People need people to talk to, so you guys just keep doing the Lord's work because people are listening. People are listening.
And you know what? And for what we're doing right now, I mean, listen, it's like a t-shirt campaign. It's like free hugs on steroids. In my opinion, I'm making t-shirts that just, I'm making t-shirts and I'm giving t-shirts away. I've got a big box that I'm shipping out today. Tyrell's getting a whole set of them, and Merris, I'll get you one too. And awesome. On the back of this t-shirt, it's got a semicolon, and it says "Be the light." That semicolon, it could have been a period, right? That's the whole concept, is that we want to stop these lives from ending. Let's continue them. But somebody needs to reach out. And if you're wearing one of my t-shirts, it just means that you care. It just means that you want to be a part of it too. And if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, what's that t-shirt stand for? What's that mean?" Just explain to them, "Hey, this t-shirt's all about mental health awareness and suicide prevention." And maybe that person then says to you, "Hey, do you know who I can talk to? Do you know who I can call? Hey, here's this website. It's got phone numbers. It's got anonymous text message, and hell, you can actually send a personal message to the founder of one of these nonprofits, and they will talk to you, and they will tell you, 'Hey, man, what are you going through? What are you feeling?' And I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you. What are you feeling? The only thing, there's one thing in the world that I don't accept, and we're not going to talk about that, but and anything else in the world you're feeling, doesn't matter how much hate, doesn't matter how much just virility, just whatever, we can talk about it. We can talk about it. As long as it doesn't involve hurting children, I'm open to talking about anything, anything that's going to make somebody feel better. Stop them from hurting themselves, but if your idea is that you want to hurt children, go ahead and take the period, brother. Go ahead and take the period. You don't need a semicolon. Don't hurt children.
No. Amen. Absolutely. So Zach, what's one small step a man can take to break his silence, man?
A small step you can take to break your silence, and this is this, I would say, kind of the smallest step, is to write to yourself. I have a hard time doing it. I have a hard time writing to myself because my brain, because of the ADHD, because of how fast things moving. And for me, like, it feels like there's a train running through my brain all the time. It's very, very hard for me to slow down and talk. I want to, if I let myself go, I want to talk really, really fast. I just want to start talking. And then it's just like, I can go here and I go here, I go here, but I can slow myself down when I'm writing, and I can just, and it doesn't matter how stupid it is. It doesn't matter what you say to yourself. Nobody has to read it. You can delete it as soon as you're done. A small thing you can do is to start to write to yourself. What I think a lot of people find when they start writing to themselves is that these words make sense, and maybe you can start to share them. And if you have a loved one, if you have a parent or a sibling or a spouse that you can speak to, maybe you can share some of those words with them. Maybe you can pick and choose the ones that you feel are, safe to share with them. For me, I've gotten to the point where I can pretty much, and I don't burden my loves with everything. Some things are just too dark, and some things are just, I keep to myself still to this day. There's times when I'm still in it, and I've kind of turned to believing in the power of self, and the power of grounding. You mentioned grounding in one of your videos earlier, Tyrell, and that's something that, just going outside and putting my hand on a tree, or putting my feet in the grass, or letting the sunshine touch my skin, and remembering that I am part of this place, that I am here, and that I exist. That is important. But writing to yourself is a small step. If you want to take a bigger step, maybe you can make some videos. Maybe you can put them out on social media and talk about how you feel. You may be surprised to find that other people feel similarly to you. I think that's a much bigger step, though. I think that one's a little scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But writing to yourself is certainly, and then therapy. There's a lot of online therapy things now, that you can go to, and you pay a small fee, or insurance covers it, and you can talk to a therapist from the comfort of your home. Just like we're talking right now on Zoom, you can talk to a therapist and just tell them how you're feeling, and they can talk to you and tell you what they think you should do. I don't personally do therapy, because I have always found that the therapists move too slow for me. They just don't. I've already figured out what they're going to say, and it's not working. It's not working. Me going to yoga is not working, buddy. Don't. And me going vegan's not going to work either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like meat too much. So some of these things, some of these therapists, man, and everybody, it's a time. You might find a good one, you might not, but you just keep trying. You just keep trying. But express it, get it out. Don't drink it down. Okay, alcohol is not going to help. And trust me, I tried. I friggin' tried to drink it away. It does not work. I've tried all the drugs. They don't work either. The problem is still there. But getting it out somehow, putting it on paper, putting it down is a good way to do it. And then I think if you can move past it, what we're doing now is how we might heal some people. We might reach some people, but we are absolutely healing ourselves in talking about
big time.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a time where I couldn't tell these stories that I've been telling on this podcast or talking to Tyrell and other friends without crying. So, or bringing up some type of emotion. So yeah, definitely healing.
Absolutely.
I think vulnerability. There's an element of maturity that goes into being vulnerable as well. And I think just grow up. Grow up. Don't feed into what the media is telling you. Be your own person, and listen to your body, and don't reject how your body is feeling. If you feel like you're about to cry, just let it out. Because Zach his story is a great example of what can happen when you keep it all in.
Absolutely.
Merris as well. So you got to find a way, and don't let embarrassment, either firsthand or secondhand embarrassment, be the excuse on why you're not able to express yourself as well. Because we're in the big 2026 now, guys. We accept all different types of people in this society. of all backgrounds. And so your story and situation is not unique. So get it out. Get it out.
And, you know, and hey, one of the things that I do now, and this is still me, and this is still me working through things. I don't like to, when I do have these emotional kind of roller coasters, I still don't like to burden people with them all the time. Listen, I'll be crying in the shower. I'll be crying in the car, listening to some sad ass music. I'll be crying in the car. I'll do it. I'll do it. Nobody has to know. Nobody has to know. But sometimes I let it out like that. You know, there are other times where, you know, I can share it because it is powerful enough for the messages, but a lot of times it's like, man, it's an emotion that maybe doesn't necessarily need to be there. I also think and you mentioned like the 18 to 25-year-old age group, I do think that there's a big age group that we need to start focusing on, and that's the 35 plus. The reason that I say that is testosterone. Hormones are an incredibly powerful thing. And a lot of these guys out here don't realize that they have low testosterone at a very young age. They're starting to find studies are starting to show that men are getting lower and lower testosterone at younger and younger ages, especially men that were in the military, especially men that have PTSD, especially men that have been through those kinds of things. You start taking TRT, your estrogen levels increase. You start becoming more emotional. And then there's a lot of guys out here who start just juicing and they don't realize that, hey, their brains are going to start to react to these things. And then you can find a lot of mental illness in that group. And they need to talk about it as well. They need to actually be open to getting their blood work done and actually getting estrogen blockers and doing things like that they're not really thinking about because they're not being responsible with their hormones. So the younger generation, especially the 18 to 24-year-old age group, men especially, highest suicide rate in the country. Men commit suicide so much more often than women do. And I think it's because they don't speak. They don't talk about it. They're ashamed of it. They're taught to be ashamed of it. That is the societal norm we are here to snap. We do not talk about it, guys. Talk about it, guys. Right. Let's talk to me. If you want, you know, if you want a role model or if you want somebody to talk to, I shouldn't be anybody's role model, but you know, at the very least I can be somebody's sounding board. You know, I can certainly listen to you, and we can write back and forth every day, man. I don't care. You know, we can talk about it. We can talk about all the violent things that we've done in our life. We can talk about all the drugs we've done in our life. We can talk about all the bad places that we've been, but we can talk about the good places that we're going. And that's the difference.
Growth, progress, prosperity, abundance.
Exactly.
So to me, that actually makes you a good role model candidate. So let's normalize.
You're a great role model.
Let's normalize looking at ourselves in a different light. So you are a role model.
We're trying, man. We're trying.
Man.
I love it. So yeah, we've been all around the world with this. The bottom line is, men, you know, you watch our program, you've listened to Zach's story, you've heard Merris chime in his thoughts. We're opening the door of the church right now. Okay. I use that term because in the Black church, that's how they invite people to come in and be members. The doors of the church are open. Send us an email. You know, we go back, rewind the tape, learn what our email addresses are. Send us an email. We're here to help. You don't have to keep it in. And Merris, do you have any parting words, or have we gotten everything out, guys? I don't want to cut us short. You guys have any parting thoughts here?
Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Well, for one, I am still doing so this t-shirt things that I'm doing for the PLUR. So the ultimate goal for the Unity Collective, my goal is to open what I want to call Unity Collective houses or Unity houses in major cities across the country at some point. And what I want them to do is to provide fentanyl testing strips, Narcan for people that are using in a safer manner, who can actually test their drugs so that they're not dying to this fentanyl epidemic that's going on out there. Secular food banks. When I was homeless, I walked into a homeless shelter, and on the wall was a big scripture And I felt so ashamed to be using the benefits of the church because I didn't believe. And so I walked back out and I continued to wander. So secular, places where it doesn't matter what you believe in, it doesn't matter where you come from, you're welcome. And that's my goal. But it's going to start with some t-shirts, man. And if you want a free t-shirt, all you got to do is send me your name, your size, and your address. I'm going to be doing free t-shirt drives every single month with different designs. All I'm doing is taking my money, I'm buying the shirts, and I'm shipping them out to you. And all I ask is that you just wear them and you explain to people what we're doing, what you're doing. Be a part of it. Be a part of this collective. Be a part of this wellness, this manifesting this better world, one person at a time. That's what we're doing. That's what Tyrell is doing. That's what Merris is doing. That's what I'm doing. We're literally trying to manifest a more positive world by talking, by being communicative. And you said grow up, be mature. This is maturity. This is actual strength. And for the longest time, we were taught that strength is in the silence, and strength is in your muscles, and strength is in what you can take without breaking. And yes, while there is some strength in that, I think the ultimate strength is how many people you can heal, how many people you can help because of what you've healed through. And that's how we pass this strength on. That's how we create a world that is better. And if we can save just one life, if one person listening to this, or one person who sees our shirts, or one person who goes to our website and calls that suicide hotline, that's enough for me.
Success.
That's enough for me. That's success.
That's great.
Agreed.
So when you're going to be starting your podcast, Zach? You're built for this, bro.
I don't know, man. I think that I need a partner, because I feel like me just talking by myself is just rambling. You know what I'm saying? So yep. Shannon Kane, who is the director of digital operations for the PLUR Unity Collective, he built the website. His wife, beautiful April Kane, she does all of the t-shirt designs and stuff. Him and I have talked about doing a podcast together. He's a very different type of personality from me, I think, a little bit, much more aggressive, much more like, he's kind of a tough guy. And I think him and I could kind of go back and forth, but that guy is super grounded in the metaphysical. He believes in past life regression, like to the moon. He is a published author now. And so I thought about doing it with him. I'm not really sure how I want to do it. I'm not really sure. I think I like the way that you guys are doing it. And I think that podcasting is something that I'm going to get into, but I kind of got to figure out where my base is going to be.
Exactly.
Is going to be.
That's the first step. But now, where to get some tips and tricks. Your episode 7. This is our 7th go around here. So, thanks so much for coming on, Zach. Zach Blair, everyone, from the PLUR Unity Collective. And as always, guys, you know where to do the subscriptions and the follows and the shares. And if you're in Zach's network, welcome. Hopefully you stay a while. And again, this is the Manifest Change podcast, and we'll say peace out, everybody.
Take it easy. Take care of each other, man.
Exactly.
Peace. Talk to you guys later.
Yes, sir.
Escape the past, no longer looking in the rear view. I'll let you dwell on who I used to be. Shed a tear too. I'm focused on who I'm meant to be. Now we're life official. My only issue ain't an issue. I'ma handle that. That I'm adamant. My new vision and composure, yo, it rattle cast. Cause what you lack inside and what you hide, I'll help you find. Just swallow your pride so inner peace can coincide and it can ride low. Like my peoples in the West, rocking this new version of me like an armor vest, deflecting all bullets of hate, cause I can't relate, manifesting a fresh change in my mind state, cause I'm destined to make